Everyone, thanks for waiting for us while we got that all sorted. Welcome to our latest RuneScape live stream, where today we're going to catch you up on player avatar refresh. It's been a few months since we've been able to do this one because of the login lockout and everything, so we're super excited to be here. And as always, please say a very warm welcome to the one and only Mod Iro, Art Director for RuneScape.
Hey everyone.
Mod Stead, Associate Art Director for RuneScape.
Howdy.
And Mod Chili, our lead environment artist for RuneScape.
Hello.
So, just before we get started, if you've not joined us for a Play Avatar stream before, we tend to run long, we tend to tell you a million things, and it tends to be a hell of a showcase. So stand by, we're going to have to jump in pretty quick, but just a couple things. Firstly, almost every account from the login lockout has been returned. In fact, they all have, barring a select few that are basically in an on-hold state. If you are locked out from back in March and you're still not back in, please head to the Discord. If you haven't received an email in your inbox, and we'll tell you what to do. It's our official Discord, so search RuneScape on Discord, and also go to the login lockout channel. We'll get you sorted if you're one of those few people. Single digits, a super small amount remaining, which we're super excited about. Speaking about the login lockout, can't say the login lockout without the wishes. We know you've been waiting on those. We're talking about those being late in kind of end of April, and then obviously they got delayed to do more work on them. Saw them today, they're looking fantastic. You won't be waiting too much longer to hear about those. We're just finishing up development on them, so stand by. We will have something to say soon, not this week, but we will be telling you more soon. And then there's also a bunch of other things that we saw out there that you want us to talk about. We've been kind of playing a bit of catch up from the login lockout, so we've got things like what are we doing about the ED punishments? What are we doing with the Grimoire page changes? What's going on with mobile and all the changes seen in the beta? The Scorpions. There's a whole bunch of things that we know that you want us to talk about. So next Tuesday we've got a Leads Q&A coming up, and we're going to make sure to cover all of those in there with the leadership. We're going to go through all those topics. So even though we're not covering that today, we're working up and make sure we have all that information gathered to give you really awesome answers and all that stuff. So we will get to it, and just thanks for being patient with us, basically. And then finally, separate to that, you should also know that next week there is a whole kind of other thing we're going to be teasing and kind of building up to. You know, there's some sort of Elder God Wars thing going on or something, and so you might hear a bit more on that too, separate to the Leeds Q&A. So please come next week. But on that note, that's the spiel done for today. I do want to hand it over very quickly to our fantastic art team to talk to you a little bit about where we've been and where we're going with Player Avatar Refresh. So, Mod Iro, Mod Stead, Mod Chili, you know, welcome to the stream. Just before we kind of dive into what you've been up to, for those who might not have been able to join us before, what is the Player Avatar Refresh project, and what's kind of your goals of what we're trying to achieve with this?
Well, we've talked quite a lot about it, but to recap quickly, your avatar is the thing that you invest in most. It's how you sit in the world, and it's at the heart of the game. That means it's completely central, and it's also woven into lots of our systems. So the team for a long time, and this is also kind of reflected on player sentiment, has kind of wanted a refresh on the avatar. So that's not to change RuneScape or kind of like change the mood, but kind of to give a best expression of the avatar, allow them to kind of show more fidelity, sit better in the world, be more expressive. And the Avatar Refresh project is to start doing that work. Because it's linked to these big systems, a big complex machine, our first step of work is to try and understand the style that would move RuneScape, slightly modernize kind of the way the characters are presented without losing the spirit, and at the same time not introduce too many technical difficulties that would mean that we'd have to do a lot of work in engine. So our focus is, the very first thing you see in the game as a new player is within minutes you're in a character creator, and that's where you'll build your character who will then adventure into the world and will change as you kind of make armor and you gain achievements. And what we wanted to do is focus on that first experience, the content that sits in the character creator, which is masculine and feminine costumes, a range of hairstyles and beards, and we're refreshing those. We're trying to make them the best expression of what we want them to be within the limitations of the text. So we're not adding great complexities to animation or radical changes elsewhere. And the process we've gone through is we've explained what goes into the avatar, all the component parts. We've asked for a lot of input on how people felt the visuals were developing. And then we said we needed to go into a production phase to actually work through that chunk of content, because it doesn't mean anything until it's in the game. When it's in the game, we can prove that it's got value, and then we can deliver and expand and take it further. So the tip of the spear is like getting the character creator content updated. And today we can kind of show a good deal of that. The actual production work has been, well, we'll get to that story, I guess, when we get to it, but we'll show you the stuff.
Yeah, and so it's great you touched on it, because we have a lot of demos for you today. It's going to be really exciting. We talked about this as a foundational update and everything, and so when we last checked in, it was like, I think, mid to late February, just before the login lockout happened, and unfortunately we've kind of had to go on hiatus while we obviously put all our attention into that from a comms perspective. So people haven't seen us for a few months on this, so we were kind of just tipping into that production phase when we were last here. Now we're in production. What does that mean? Like, what have we been doing for the past 2 months, really, to get us to what we're going to show today?
We've been doing a large amount of work on modeling, a large amount of work on texturing, a large amount of work on concepting, a very large amount of work on kind of suffering pain with our pipeline and trying to remove pain points, because this is the thing, we're constantly putting content into the game, and if we want to make a change, it means we have to keep up the pace where we're adding the content the game needs regularly, and then we're adding on top the stuff that we want to refresh. And it's put a lot of stress in the system, actually, which has been painful. But it's also been really positive, because we're thinking, it's making us think about the tools to try and make things efficient. And actually this covers multiple areas of the game. And when Mod Chili starts explaining about cube maps, he'll talk about how important the tooling has been in that. But it's suffice to say, we've been working very hard. There's been a kind of lot of people contributing to this. And I mean, if I can give something away, we didn't have a build running until 8 minutes before this live stream. It just like landed very, very hot. So it's the
words "doing it live" have never been more appropriate, I think.
Yeah, it's very, very live. Working hard on the production plan, which is the work that we said we wanted to do.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about that. So, like we've told people before, like, this is a foundational project, right? We're trying to deliver something tangible that is going to come out this year, that will essentially be something we can build from and expand from. And part of that, I know, we've said from the start, really, this has been inspired a lot by fan feedback from start to finish. And part of that goes to that cube map shoot stuff you were talking about. Do we want to dive into that and explain a little bit about, firstly, what a cube map is, but how players informed us of, and kind of influenced what we did here, and what the end result is? I know there's a lot of cool stuff to show.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it then. Actually, yeah, the pains of pipelines and pushing our systems is a nice segue. So, we have a series of issues in the game that affect our characters, that affect our weapons, our pets, and this affects any dynamically added asset that's pretty much been made since Anachronia, that was made using the new material system. So I've got an image here that describes how our new material system works. So when we switched over, we switched from a basic specularity material type to a PBR material type, which stands for physically based rendering. So back in the day, you would say, okay, if I wanted something to be really shiny, I would give it a mask of white, and that would say, this surface should be really shiny. If it's black, that would be very dull. Now, that's fine, but when you've got really bright scenes or really dark scenes, it kind of doesn't work. You always have a level of specularity, even when the sunlight's almost at zero. So the way we changed this was we switched to something called a roughness metalness workflow. And what that basically means is we say to the engine, this surface is either rough or it's smooth, or somewhere in the spectrum there. On the sphere on the left, we've got a number of light rays that are coming in. they're hitting an ultra smooth surface and they're bouncing out, and that creates a very sharp specular highlight. That's what gives you that reflection. The sphere on the right, I think I said sphere on that bit. You can see a rougher surface. I think it's inverted on my end actually. The light ray hits that surface is rougher. You see the light rays bouncing off in all directions, and that's why you get that duller, wider specular highlight with less reflections.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the problem begins. This part works brilliantly, but we need to tell the engine what to reflect. And this is where you hear a lot of those discussions about, you know, RTX, ray tracing, and all this kind of stuff, where the really high-end GPUs can capture this reflection in real time. That doesn't really work for like 99.9% of games. It's a very expensive thing to do. So what we do, like many other game engines, we generate a capture of a scene, and then we feed that back to the material, and that's what drives the reflection, the color, the intensity, even the direction of that reflection. So if we move on to the next image, I can show you why this doesn't work. Oh, sorry, I just minimized something there. So we've got all these cube maps. They are assigned to our map squares, but the problem is that these cube maps were made either a very long time ago, or they were inconsistently added to a map square, or they just have all the wrong values to do this type of reflection. On here, Lost Grave image, it's a dark, it's a very dark blue image, lots of torches in the background, and yet you can see in the top right we have a screen cap of one of the faces of the cube map. You can clearly see it's very bright. It's a desert cube map. It should not be on this map square, and that's what's given us these incorrect reflections. You can see in the bottom left there we've got a number of rewards that we use for Yak Track, and this is what our players are seeing on their kits, on their weapons, on their pets right now. It's not very pleasant. If we move on to the next image.
Production?
Can we move on? Yeah, perfect. So this is another issue. What if the map square doesn't have a cube map assigned? So you've got to have a cube map there. So our engine will default to our default cube map, which is just a black reflection with a few white dots in it. Doesn't look too bad for metals, but it ends up being very noisy. It looks really artificial. It just doesn't look grounded to the game world at all. So we know what the issue is. We had a really good idea how to fix this, but the first hurdle we had was that we have nearly 5,000 map squares right now. Opening up each map square, manually editing that map square, not only takes a lot of time, but it increases the risk of me misclicking on a building or on a prop and beginning a cascade of breaks and issues which QA would not have been happy with. So instead we had to build some tooling solution for this. If you move on to the next image, I can show you what that looks like. So this is a snapshot of Gillinor surface world. Each of these squares, each of these images is a new cube map on a separate map square. So you can see in the bottom right we've got some of the desert map squares, and actually you can see on the desert we have two different types of cube map, which isn't good to begin with. We can see there's a bit in the middle which is darker, that will be Draenor, and you can see the rest. You can even see in the top left we have a map square that has no cube map assigned, which means it will go back to that default map square. So we built a tool that allows us to view these, so we can view the entire game world. We can drag select all of these and then change these all in batches. And then QA also built a tool that allows us to automatically teleport to each map square, get multiple screenshots from multiple angles, from multiple devices. QA did tell me the other day it was about 27,000 automated checks, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the screenshots on that. It's going to be I think that's going to be a sit there on the laptop in the evening with a cup of tea, just going through image after image. So that's kind of where we're at. That's what the problem is, and this is our solution for.
Just before we go into the solution, I just want to go back because obviously, there's a lot of technical stuff being described here for players, and if this isn't an element of game design you've worked in, you may not follow it. So, in terms of what players have probably seen this problem manifest as, is it right in saying that feedback we saw around characters looking a little washed out in certain environments, especially with the newer things, this is kind of a root cause of that, right? Is the cube maps and the reflections and the materials and understanding what to do in those different spaces. Is that correct?
That's exactly what it is. I think the most obvious and common complaint that we hear is that you go to the Eastern Lands, one of the overcast areas, suddenly your character lights up blue. We could look at the Eastern Lands and isolate those maps, but we weren't confident in the quality of the reflections for the entirety of the game. So we decided just to tackle all of this at once. So if you see your character lighting up incorrectly, looks too bright, looks too dark in comparison to the scene, it will be this issue. So we're going to fix it in one go, not just isolated incidents.
I mean, I think there's a lot of people in chat who are probably very excited to hear that. I know since we started these streams, it was a big point, and it's awesome to see the program take it on. So why don't you rush through the solution? The magic one.
And to be fair, everybody would send those Reddit posts directly to me, and it would frustrate me every time because I was like, we're so close to fixing this. I think, could you play the next video, please? Perfect. So we need to capture the scene. We have this amazing tool called the spherical camera, which makes the game impossible to play, but it looks really, really cool. All this is doing is taking the scene and wrapping this around. So imagine the camera's just a sphere. It's just wrapping that all around that. If we, might as well repeat the video when it ends as well. If we were to, it's a very short video. If we were to have the camera flat to the horizon, that would give us a complete 360 horizon shot of the scene. And we could set that at any height. We can do a number of further edits. We could increase the depth of field, increase gloom. We could add new assets to add to that reflection. And so this is the first stage, getting a fairly good, accurate representation of that scene. Once this video is finished playing, if you could move on to the next image, if that's okay. It looks really cool though.
It does look very cool.
It's also an excuse just to show off Dave and Dale as well, because
it's strangely calming that.
Yeah.
After the rush to get the last build in. It's calming.
Hypnotic, yes. So I've just found a generic brown cave. There's lots of brown caves in RuneScape, and actually, as I've gone through all of these map squares, I didn't realise how many brown caves there actually were, and a lot more than I thought there would be. But this is a pretty good screenshot of a 360 shot. So I've switched off something called color grading, which is about our exposure. The reason for that is we don't need an exposed image for the reflection because we're going to add that exposure afterwards. If you go on to the next image, we then start pushing it. We start to stylize this up a little bit, push the horizon down a little bit more because we want to have more of the sky in our reflection. This was something we figured out quite early on in our tests. Our original thoughts were we'll keep the camera really low so the reflection's really accurate. But what that ends up doing is you just see the ground reflected in your weapons, in your armor. It just doesn't look very visually pleasing, especially if you're outdoors, sunny day, you expect to see that glistening bright blue sky on your armors. For the caves, we need a sky color, right? We don't actually have anything to reflect, so I just added a nice purple here. Blurred the image down because we don't want mirror finished reflections as part of our stylization of our metals. If you go on to the next image, we then finish that off with a few secondary light sources. When you're in that cave, most of the time you're going to have some type of torch, some type of lava, something like that. Even if it's not there, you still want a little bit of something, so as you pan your camera around, you pick up those points of colour. It looks really, really nice, and we should be including that in most of our cube maps that we've updated. I think if you go on to the next video now, I can show you an example of how all of this works. I've used the new Dave and Dale scene for this. So we've took a screen capture of this area using a spherical camera in this exact same scene. And now I've just got some of those same test assets, and you can see there, it just really shines, it really pops. One of the things that we do stylistically is we try to have our characters pop a lot more from the environment. Fortunately, most of the environment work is all stone, wood, grasses, very low reflecting stuff. You can see there on that sphere, there's what that reflection capture looks like. In fact, that capture is taken from that spot specifically. It looks really, really good. And so this is the general expectation you should have for all your weapons, for your pets and your armors when you're running around the surface world of Killenor, especially in the sunny areas. I think it looks really, really nice.
It does. It looks amazing. And yeah, it's actually really interesting to kind of go back to, I remember when we did the first stream in January, to go from that and showing the model in there, and people were like, it looks amazing, but you know, like there was some feedback that it maybe look a little washed out, and then you see the model there and it's, you know, absolutely fantastic. I hope, obviously, chat, you all agree as well that it looks absolutely incredible. And so you've been doing this across like 4,000 plus maps or something like that, wasn't it, Chili?
Yeah,
crazy.
So once I had the tools up and running, I was doing about 500 map squares a day. In fact, I report into these two and say, I've done another 300 map squares, I'm going to do 300 more today.
Impressive work, yeah. You
Didn't lose my mind,
yourself,
it got close. Once my work's done, it's QA who I'm going to feel sorry for, because they've got a lot of testing to do to make sure this works. But it's going to be well worth it. It looks really good.
Oh, it looks amazing.
And yeah, I've got one more video just to go over some really good examples. So here's the before. I'm also going to be looking at how dark some of our maps are as well. But we've got a really dark cave, dark reflection map. It needs improving, right? So in the updated shot, this was that cube map that I was just showing with the cave. The lighting's just been updated a little bit just to brighten up a little bit. But instantly, that meld pops, the characters are more lit. Suddenly I feel more excited to wield that sword, to have that armor on, which looks really, really nice.
That's amazing. Yeah, chat's saying it looks really awesome. Lots of love going out in the chat. That's awesome. Iron, is there anything you also want to add as well?
I mean, we'll see this in the characters later on, but we said at the beginning, the characters and the world need to fit together. And we're beginning to get that working. Like, it's not everywhere, it's not on everything, but we kind of know it's possible, and that's what we're driving towards. So, I mean, here, for example, the fact that as you pan around, there's orange glints, it pulls you into the scene. It means these things are properly located there. They're all part of the world. The whole point of playing RuneScape is you want to be in the world and enjoying the world, and it's everything about the world. And things like this, where you get these errors, they don't break the game, but they slightly nag at you. So you're kind of like you're reminded that it doesn't quite fit together, and you know, it grieves us. We want to get rid of that. There you go, right?
Day, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like suddenly those statues sit in the scene. It's so enjoyable.
Yeah, just to echo,
sorry.
Just to echo what Mod Iro is saying, it's building that harmony between content and the visuals, and maintaining the immersion for the players. That's super important for us. And again, like, it's not game breaking, but it can pull you out of it. And
oh wow,
if it's in our power to update it, why wouldn't we? I mean, these look infinite. The updated versions look infinitely better.
Yeah, cool. Really happy to be getting around to this one. I'm so happy with the results.
Well, I mean, I think chat is very pleased, and I'm sure everyone else, when they see this, are going to be very pleased as well. So I'm sure it's been all worth the effort. I know there's a big team of people, as always, on the art side, and there's a lot of people involved, but like, massive shout out to all of you for the amazing work. And that's not all I hear you've bought for us either, Chili. Is that right? There's something else we've got to show you, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Or maybe we're just talking to it. I don't know. Are we showing it, Iro?
Okay. I'm actually completely confused at what you're on about.
Are we talking about the other rendering development?
Yeah, the other rendering rework. Yeah.
Ah,
I just dropped Chili
So,
in it, apparently.
yes.
I should explain maybe why this is a kind of confusing thing. Everything interacts. Like
Yeah.
the characters interact with the shading interacts with the lighting. The lighting is a combination of these nodes in the world and maps. And the responsibility for this sits in art direction, in tech art, in environment art, in character art. It's all over the place. So what we want is that, like, this single coherent experience. Like, you enter Gielinor and it's a crazy world, right? Anything can happen. But nothing should kind of like break out of the world like it's badly composited in, or something looks like it's shinier than it should be or less shiny. It all fits together. And one of the areas we wanted to do work on is the rendering in the game proper when you're running around the world has the potential to be at a really high standard, particularly as you see these changes and we balance things out so things become coherent. But funnily, that point where you make your choices, where you go to edit your character or you create your first character, the rendering in that is actually deliberately a match for a much, much older look in the game. And as we were spending so much effort on the revised avatar, and as we were looking at the cube maps, we started asking, can we bring the world rendering into the other parts of the game where you see this content? So I'm going to caveat this. It's like work in progress. Not everything's balanced up. We're not quite sure when we'd be able to QA this and get this through the full system, but it's worth showing. And it's all part of this drive to pull everything together, make it as coherent as possible. Modstead, over to you.
All right, thanks. Want to share up my screen? Brilliant. Okay. So shout out to the engine team and to our lead graphics programmer for basically working this up for us. So what you can see here is the current renderer that's in live with one of our new with the new avatar and the new assets for the outfits. And you can hopefully tell from what you've just seen from Mod Chili's renders, it's missing a lot of sort of shading, a lot of surface detail. So there's a lack of shadows, there's a lack of specular highlight, there's no subsurface ambient occlusion, which is all the kind of little shadowed areas in the gaps and what have you. And this is the same in the wardrobe, it's the same in any of the clothing stores and what have you. The GUI renderer is, as Mod Iro says, is from a sort of previous, I guess, style or previous version of the game. So let me do the whole reveal. Here we go. Hopefully it works.
A high-tech reveal.
Oh,
Look at that transition.
I love it. That is so smooth. So smooth.
So yeah, the biggest differences between the two, like I said, is we've got specular lighting, so you can really see the sort of higher fidelity detail that we've got going on, generated by normal maps. Don't know if we've covered that previously, but it's just a way of taking a very high detail mesh and baking it into something that can run on most machines. So you get a lot more surface detail with that. Environment mapping, which is where it's pulling in the cube map things that Mod Chili was showing off earlier. We've got shadows going on. We've got a bit of subsurface ambient occlusion as well, and we've got control over the light direction and the angle and the value. And these, between the two, they look very different. We're getting a nice hit of the metals as well as you pan round. And just generally, your character will look better in all of the interfaces that use this rendering.
So that includes chat heads as well, doesn't it? That's
that includes
one
chat
of the
heads,
ones.
yeah. So if I dive in game with this version, make sure I'm clicking on the right things. Fingers crossed this doesn't break. This is all live.
Oh.
Skip the cutscene. Okay. So if we leg it over to this guy, just have a chat with him, you'll start to see the chat heads are looking really cool now. We've got shadows.
Wow.
Where before we didn't. In fact, maybe I can do the side-by-side thing again. Let's see. See if this will work.
So smooth.
Oh, I love our high-tech solutions sometimes.
Whilst Modstead is setting that up, to your question, Modhuli, yes, the idea is that we would make everything consistent because it's the same world. So if you see something that you might wear in the world, you want it to look like it would look in the world in the shop. You don't want to have a different experience. And also, the chat heads they're right at the heart of that kind of questing experience and interaction. And so, yeah, I will be quiet and you can just look at the images and see if you can spot the difference.
So noticeable immediately.
So this guy is meant to be sort of mysterious with his hood pulled over, and the lack of shadows on the one on the left just doesn't sort of generate that sort of atmosphere which you get on the right. And then obviously we've got all the extra details that are coming through, and this isn't one of the new characters, so if we go forwards we can see our own character's chat head as well. These are still work in progress, so they're not final yet. But you can see again, you can see the shading differences, the rendering differences that we're getting through here. We're getting some of the specular highlights, getting some extra depth as well. It's hard to sort of, see the depth in this. Yeah, so
we were so happy when the engine team kind of delivered this. Like the first, hey, come and have a look at this test build. And it's like, oh my word! Yeah, particularly the hooded characters. I mean, this is a fantasy game, right? You've got to have the mysterious hooded characters, and a mysterious hood without a shadow it's like a salad without garlic, or something's wrong. Something's missing.
There's some good questions here, by the way. I don't know if you'll have the answer to hand, because I know this is all work in progress and all that sort of stuff. So, but some people are asking, do we feel like this is going to actually have an impact in terms of performance needs, or is it pretty similar performance demands as what we had before? Does anyone know? It's a very technical engine question. I
can't answer with confidence, but I can give you a partial answer. The rendering that's on the heads is very much the rendering that works in the game. That's the whole point, that the two things come together rather than they separate. And so it's not like a radically more expensive system. It's actually the rendering that you use for the rest of the game.
Gotcha.
So I would guess the answer is no, and also you're not rendering the, say you're playing full screen on a PC, where you're rendering, many thousands of pixels. The head and the kind of shop are not a large proportion of the screen. But
I should
I'm an art
probably
director,
answer that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I was like, I'm asking a pretty technical question to the art direction team. So.
Yeah, I've been following the job since their creation. So I was actually looking at the compact testing the other day, and everything's looking really good with very minimal amount of performance impact at the moment. I only saw that for PC, so I can't really talk for mobile at the moment. But
yeah.
At the moment, it's looking very, very positive on performance.
Monster, could you go back to the one with the loop on the cape, the kind of the ribbon on the cape? I think
So,
this is remarkable difference. If you look at the character on the left versus
wow.
that kind of like the metal
This is
really
fun 'cause
kicking out.
I get to see this for the first time as well, by the way, chat. So a lot of it is like I'm feeling the same. This is awesome.
We were having so much fun when we got this into a build and we're actually able to try that costume, look at this. It's subtle. You might see it more if you go to a lighter costume. And actually, the Crux one would be good. There's now self-shadowing, so if you look at the arms, they will cast a shadow on the body.
Mhm.
I think you'll have to spin a little bit further around the other way. Yeah. There you can see that shadow of the arm cross the body.
Mhm.
And they're kind of subtle, but the combination of all these things is it just makes it more... I was going to use a technical word and I couldn't find one, so I'm going to say juicy. It's just like a juicier world. Yeah, like the guy on the right is just juicier. Look at that.
That's going to be a new RuneScape community meme for sure.
But it's a dream, isn't it? It's like... I like making games. Any game is good. A game that you make dragons in is even better. And then a game you can get shiny gold armor in, and it really shines gold. It's like, wow, it's a happiness. It's a grand thing. Look at that.
Awesome.
And the nice thing about work on the rendering is it's universal, so it would affect, we'll see more effect on newer content, but it will affect all content, which is a real positive.
So I'm the person as host who has the horrible job of having us to move on. I think we all want to spend all day looking at every outfit, but there's also things to show. So we've shown, two very significant technical improvements that have, improvements beyond just the player avatar refresh of the kind of assets that are in the character creator that we're kind of bringing to a new quality. So I guess now it's time to kind of show all that tech stuff. Time to show some more of the hairstyles and outfits I hear. That we've got been able to do over the past few months. Do you want to give us a little tour of what you've been working on? Has been managed to make it into game?
Yeah,
I'll
definitely.
do an intro whilst Modsteg gets set up. So we want to replace everything in the character creator. That's a good deal of content, and we've been working as hard as we can through this. It takes a while to get momentum, get your outsourcers working, get your QA pipeline, but now things are beginning to kind of flood through. So we've got a range of outfits. We probably haven't got the time to show everything that's gone in. So what we've done earlier is prepped things that we think show off differences and hopefully people find interesting.
It's going to be a lot of manual setup, so...
Yeah, got to get the perfect spot.
Yeah.
All the people feeling similar to me when I first noticed the XP waste that was happening with the DXP when you're in Burthorpe. It's test worlds, we're okay. None of this is live.
So, for art direction on the game, and this isn't just me feeling it, it was the whole team, we really want that connection with the character to the world. And we've got a long journey to do, a lot to kind of work out, but we are really, I think, beginning to achieve that.
Well, bear with us, everyone. We're doing it live and trying to get set up, so...
So the character, when you see them on the Davendale beach, the fidelity of the scene, it's one of the new areas, and the fidelity of the costume and the way the lighting and the cube map all ties together. Okay, I'm confused.
A few more minutes.
Just as always, just whilst you're getting everything set up, I should remind people. So, I know we're quite deep into production now. The feedback's been part of the process throughout. Whenever we've showed things, taking a lot of the feedback on board. Just to set expectations, is there any room for feedback to be incorporated here? Is this kind of at a stage where this is getting to the part where we're focused on delivery and then we can look at feedback? Like where are we in terms of the production, so people know what they should or shouldn't say in feedback?
Well, people of the opinions and feedback is valuable all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no block on feedback at all.
Awesome.
What there is occasionally there'll be periods where we have less options for reacting to feedback.
Yep.
And at the moment, this is one of the things, because we're very focused on proving out that this is a real thing that we can get into the game. So we are looking to deliver everything in the character creator in the game, functional, balanced, and coherent, and then we can rev again. Kind of look at adjusting things, and that will kind of keep going and keep going and keep going.
But basically, if you're out there, there's a bunch of feedback in chat and stuff. As always, us as a community team will gather up a report, we'll pass it along. So do keep your feedback coming throughout all of this. Just be aware of, like you said, Iro, where we are, and at certain points we'll be able to incorporate more than others. This is we're still reading, we're still watching. So, like everyone's asking, what were the avatar reworks you showed months ago? This is just shading. Yes, we're showing this now. So this is what we're getting set up now. Is we're going to show you the refreshed things from the character creator. Is what we're going to show now.
Oh, there we go. Cool. Right, we're just going to run through a bunch of options actually that we've kind of picked out that we really liked. I mean, combinations are the same as they used to be. They're just shinier assets, which is great. So yeah, I'm just going to set up some male options and some female options, and we'll dive in game, have a bit of a look. And Mod Iro can sort of just give you a bit of a running commentary, hopefully. As I mean, the commands.
Yeah, we have no slick tools for setting up a kind of like a fashion parade and then running it. These are all lists. We actually spent the whole afternoon going, those colour trousers. No, with that hair. No, I love it with that moustache. So we actually, most of the afternoon was spent going this thing with this thing with this thing, which actually was a really positive experience, because once you start to enjoy that in the character creator, you're probably in the right place with it. So we're going to show a mix of characters and a mix of hairstyles. So I think we've running in game at the moment. There's 7 complete masculine, 7 complete feminine costumes in all the parts. There's about 25 separate masculine hairstyles, 15 beards, about 16 feminine hairstyles, and that's not the complete set. We're still sort of working on the delivery of that.
How many times are we going to have to skip this cinematic? And
you might see that a few times. All right, let's go.
Chat's asking, can we see feminine as well as masculine? We're planning to show both, right? We'll be showing feminine and masculine.
There's 7 of each. Yeah. So this is a complete character. So if we go through the component parts, it's everything that was in the character creator before: feet, legs, torso, hands, head. It's now our first delivery of new content, first delivery of the new shading, first delivery in a new environment with the cube maps balanced up. And what I'm most pleased about is there's a coherence between the character and the world. He feels like he sits in the world. He's kind of like a similar level of fidelity. The lighting feels consistent, which is super pleasing. There's work to be done. So these have come back from our kind of partners, and we get them in the game, and then we do some balancing. So Mod Chili has walked you through just how complex a business that is. You have lots of maps interaction. Please feedback on how you feel about these. We'll also be going in and looking at them and kind of like adjusting maps and tweaking things. Like I say, we just got them in this afternoon, so I'll show them off. But yeah, Modstead, which characters do you want to show us then?
Well, I've lost connection, so.
Oh no!
If someone can just log me into. Parsec.
So everyone knows we use a couple of systems, so we do this remotely to guarantee the best sort of stable connection. And one of the things is we're essentially doing this remotely. So Stead's controlling a PC based in the stream setup. So there you go. Also, can we do a couple of things? Can we go full screen on this? Because I saw chat asking if we can full screen for a bit. And also, if you could zoom in a little, Stead, if you're okay with that. I think chat's looking for their close-ups.
Yes, that's what I tried to do before, and it kicked me out. But I will try it again. No, that's not it.
Oh my!
Reconnect. Okay. Yep. Okay, I think this is as close as we're going to be able to get in this session. Otherwise, I'm going to keep disconnecting. Right, I'm going to change outfits. So that does mean I need to log out again.
Well, as I was saying, we don't have a system set up to rapidly cycle through a load of outfit presets.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is so. Apologies that it's very manual and very live. Hopefully, though, it gives confidence that it's actually running in engine. You're kind of seeing it as we're seeing it.
Yeah, it's a live demo of a not live build.
Let's go. Let's get the Ranger 2 outfit, which is this one. We quite like the green on this one. It's kind of what we settled on with the colour scheme, which is pretty cool. And hairstyle, we were rocking a long hairstyle, which I think was something like that one. Yeah, there we go. I could just maybe stay in the character creator and just go through a few of the outfits, and then we can sort of jump in game, just so people don't have to keep seeing the log in, log out screen. How does that sound?
Sure. Yeah. It's
yeah.
Like if everyone in chat can see it close enough, I think we'll be good.
Yeah. Well, how about if people want to shout out if there's a particular outfit, or is that a can of worms?
It's probably a can of worms. I would say pick your favorites to hop into game with, and then maybe the rest we show in the creator. That sounds good.
Okay, cool.
People really love the reflections on the model in the in everything. So when we were in the world, so
yeah. All right, so I would
Why not try the Beastmaster and hop into the world with that? Because I think that was one of the really enjoyable ones.
It's pretty tasty looking, isn't it? Yeah. So we've gone with sort of Crimson Hellhound. I think it was for the colour scheme for that one.
I love that you've already kind of
fancy colour names.
And Phoenix Orange hairdo. And we quite like the ponytail spiked for this diving game.
Actually, could you just go back to the head?
Oh,
I lost it too late. It was just a great example of the self-shadowing on the.
As a reminder as well for everyone in chat as well, everything you're seeing is work in progress as well. I'm sure the art team will always want me to say that as well. But project's coming along a long way actually. Like it's amazing to see this much in game, looking as good as it does. It's incredible.
It's been so exciting having the stuff arrive, and like I've said, playing with it, and actually just playing with it in game this afternoon. You know, we got like shine on the metal, a kind of level of fidelity on the character, the kind of construction detail that we wanted to make. I mean, if you look at this world, there's a kind of logic to the construction of the jetty, and then there's a logic of construction to the clothes. It's like everything looks like it's sort of handcrafted and reasonably plausible. And then just the kind of like variety that's going to be available. Well, it was always available, but it's available now with the kind of like a stronger expression of itself, I hope.
Oh, nice. I love this area. Looks awesome. I'm very glad we jumped in game as well. People are loving how this model looks in game, especially.
And this again
I mean,
is
if you look at
some of the cube map stuff that Mod Chili has implemented helps to ground the character more in the environment.
We've shown this hair already because it's one of the ones that we tried early on. It was like one of our prototype hairs, but they're kind of having a more complicated silhouette on some of these hero objects, like the tuft of hair. It's so much fun. This is a much gloomier kind of scene, and she sits in it, but the surfaces are still interesting.
Cool.
So I should be talking, but I'm just kind of enjoying watching it.
Oh, it's okay. This is show and tell. This is the part where we are just showing the things coming to life. So yeah, it's. I think the visuals are telling story here.
Modstead, maybe the feminine Fisher.
By the way, something that I know you were talking to me about, Iro, that maybe people don't know is part of doing this. Obviously, we kind of went through that testing and that kind of proof of concept phase and kind of making this work. When we showed it in January, I think we were in that stage, and then we go into full-blown production. But even when we go into production, we found some interesting challenges along the way. I hear it's not been super smooth to kind of bring something like of this fidelity to RuneScape.
I mean, some of it is exactly what we started talking about right from the very first stream, that RuneScape is history. It's this big system built over a long period of time, and that makes it quite challenging to work with. Like, every part of it is kind of woven through other things, and so isolating a part that you can change without almost knocking the house down is quite difficult. And we've been bumping into that, things that you wouldn't expect, like I think we had a whole series of invisible beards pop up suddenly because we'd put something new in, which you'd never have expected. So we're hitting some things like that. And then other things we're hitting is very much the kind of thing that Mod Chili was talking about, which is when you try and deliver content, if you're delivering one or two things with a reasonable space of time between them, you can afford to have fairly manual processes. But if you're delivering a lot of content, which we are doing with these characters, you really need to be effective and have kind of a lot of tools in place for that. And we've come under quite a lot of pressure with what we've been delivering, and it means that the technical art team is now actually putting a real focus into this area. If I can just talk about that kind of like the greater fidelity here, if you look at the silhouette on the loop of hair that drops behind the ear and back to the bun, and then the two chopsticks that are pushed through the bun. It's quite subtle stuff, but it's just enjoyable when you rotate around the character and all those shapes reveal themselves. And also within the hair itself, I think our lead concept artist was explaining a bit of this, how he's almost become this virtual hairdresser, the concepting on these things and actually deciding where the kind of flows and the weight goes. There's been a lot of debate on this. actually. There's some very long threads in some of the Slack channels on the hair stuff.
Cool. I'll queue up another one.
Which one are you going for?
I think I'm going to go for the minor, because actually that's not. We've still got a few issues. Work in progress.
To be fair, if they could have seen what it looked like 8 minutes before stream.
Yeah, that was definitely special. We went for that one.
Yeah, just what was happening before stream is it looked like everyone had been on a cart and they'd got rear-ended by a bull, and so their necks had broken and their heads were about a kind of like 18 inches behind where their neck should be, which was quite a look. It was not what we wanted to do to show off our best.
By the way, if you want an idea of how much effort goes into these streams from this team, like the fact that you've already kind of like pre-color coordinated and come up with looks for the outfits to best showcase them, I think there is no better example of how much time you all spend as a team to make sure you turn up with amazing stuff to show. So thank you.
We haven't got any to show in this stream, but we were actually playing around trying to recreate film characters, and we managed to get a couple of them from Guardians of the Galaxy, and
that's cool.
Get kind of looky-likeys, which was really good fun.
They show in the chat head as well.
Show some chat heads, yeah.
So cool.
I mean, the lilac beard and mohawk is a sort of definite choice. You may not be your first go-to, but the option is there.
Perfect.
And there's that silhouette again that really kicks out. I mean, obviously a mohawk is a slightly cheap trick when you're talking about silhouettes, but it does work.
Mm-hmm. And this is also like it's taking into account a lot of feedback we saw over the first stream and the second stream that we got reported in terms of like this is something that players help guide the final look of, really, in a lot of ways, right?
Mm.
Yeah, very much. And I think this will kind of continue to develop. It's a kind of like a journey. It's not going to happen in one hit.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a period where we need to kind of get the characters done so we can prove out that it works. And we started that process by getting as much feedback as we possibly could. Plus, we're always on the threads and following the kind of general conversations. And once we deliver this, it will be in game. It will be there for people to see in a kind of larger audience, and then we'll get more information and we can go again. Actually, this is great. With Modstead pulling out, one of the things that we wanted to do was get that legibility from a distance. So that's why things like the duller cube maps were important to kind of like get past. So as you get these little hits of interest, when you're in that zoomed out view, your kind of character that's the focal point on your screen doesn't become dull or vanish. They continue to have these little flecks of interest.
Yeah, I think as well for with this like kind of all the stuff we're doing, the avatar rework. I just want to come back to what we were saying about the foundation we're setting. Like, well, we've been talking about this publicly for 5 months. Obviously, development started before that. Development is continuing even now. That's a huge undertaking just to get to the stage where we've redone the character creator, right? So it's going to be. I know you have a lot of thoughts about the future that we won't share today, but it just shows the scale of this project just to really kind of get that new baseline, right?
Yeah, I mean, future plans we can't talk about, but like driving ambitions is just to make things as enjoyable as possible. So like characters are really rewarding and they sit in the world in the most exciting way. And I think it's probably worth mentioning one of the things about our choice to look at the character creator first. The reason we wanted to look at the character creator is it's a first experience that anyone coming into the game would share. So it was a great place to get a reaction to it, and it had a focus. But what you see in the character creator is our entry costumes. So if you looked at some of the stuff that Modstead was showing in the shop, that blinging costume, the one that made me really happy, the kind of gold, the gold armor. This doesn't exist in the character creator because the character creators are kind of like your first steps into Gielinor. But everything that we're doing on the tech side and the kind of style side and on the rendering side would mean that as you get those higher level suits of armor, these kind of things, that they should get more and more rewarding as well.
Oh, this was one of the first outfits we ever showed, I remember. Someone's got cool.
Sorry about that. It's my mum.
So you
so
on stream?
live.
So you on Twitch?
I'm on TV,
So
mum.
Brilliant.
If you look at, just to talk about the hair here, one of the things that we had with the original hair is they're fairly low polygon models, and it's hard with a very low polygon model to get complicated shapes within the hair. And if you look at these sort of dreaded hair, could you spin around, Modstead, so you're looking at the back of it, please? There's actually, because we can now use normal maps on the hair, you're getting a complexity to that surface, which is the correct surface for that type of style. So it becomes a kind of truer choice and a better expression for that choice in the game, which is one of the things we're really keen to do. It's like one of the pleasures of being able to kind of update this content.
Okay, perfect. Conscious of time, because our team will have to leave the building very soon here. Are there any more final things you want to show off in the character creator just before we wrap up?
Oh, so many more.
Could you show off the smith? Could you show off the smith with the quiff? The smith with the quiff.
Smith with the quiff. Yeah.
If we got a couple of minutes, it's just like this was the one that made us.
Oh yeah,
laugh
we
the
have.
most.
The security's not going to be kicking our production team out of the studio just yet.
Excellent. Okay. It's not his official name.
It's
Smith
close
Quiff,
though.
but that's what we.
For those of you wondering why a security team might remove our production people, no, they're not sneaking in or anything. We just have some rules in place at our studio due to COVID. Obviously, a lot of the kind of restrictions and kind of considerations are still very much in place here in the UK. And so the team can only be in to a certain time, and they have security to make sure there's always someone on site and that social distancing is enforced and stuff. So it's just a case of respecting those rules and the kind of way we're keeping the studio safe for everybody who needs to go in and use it.
You need the huge handlebar tash as well.
Oh yeah. I knew I was missing something. There we go.
No, it's the one that curls up. There's a bottom left, I think. Left.
Yeah.
There you go. Can you just tumble him? Can you go to the head and tumble him around just in close? Just spin him around, and you might see the self-shadowing. Yeah, you see how that quiff and the moustache is actually casting a shadow over the head, because this now has the kind of like the in-game rendering rather than the much flatter rendering we had before. Like I said, it's subtle, but it actually makes everything much more solid. Cool. What's he look like in game then? There's a hero for the ages.
Ooh. We can actually rattle through a number of hairstyles if we've got time, or we can call it.
Yeah, let's just put a couple of the hairstyles on because there's quite a lot of male ones now. Oh, to put the monk one on.
Where's the monk? Lost him. There we go.
There you go. I absolutely love this one.
It's to be sort of a
There,
grey-haired.
it's Sean Connery in Name of the Rose. Seriously, this is how we spent the afternoon. We're going this hair, that moustache. Oh, can you put the white wind hair, the kind of like the crazy backwards flowing wind hair?
Oh yes.
I think is it wind spikes or
dragon? Oh
no?
not
That's
that one. That's one we've yet to
think-
update.
I think it was wind. I think you had it up. Oh no, there you go. And then the huge forked beard. Sorry, I'm just being a style boss here. Look at that! There's a...
That looks great. That looks really, really good.
Check that guy.
There
That is
you
a
go.
mane. That is
There
a
you
mane
go.
to be
Now-
proud of.
No one is going to challenge this guy. I mean, Mod Hooli, that's maybe like a good point to kind of wrap it up if you're under pressure. What we've been doing in the art team is we've been working to deliver on those production promises, which is that we wanted to understand the system and explain it to people. We wanted to explore the style and get feedback, and then we wanted to move to a production setting so we could deliver on that first point where it becomes real. It can actually sit in the game and replace things that were there already with a kind of like better version of themselves. It's still work in progress. There's plenty that's broken. Like I said, it literally was 8 minutes before the stream went live that we actually got this running. I'm not kidding. And it's, there's plenty more to do, which we hope everyone follows us on the journey.
Yeah, and we definitely won't keep you waiting as long next time. Believe me, it was really gutting for all of us to kind of have to, put this to the side. But obviously, log in, lockout needed to take all our attention in terms of our communication and our streams and all that sort of stuff. So we're really happy to be back. Thank you, Iro, Stead, Chili, for everything you brought along. Tons of effort goes into this. Big shout out to everyone on the art team who was also involved in bringing all this together. We really appreciate you, and hopefully all of you at home love the end result. Just so you know, we promised last week we're going to do a tutorial. Originally we had to cancel it because Old School needed to shift their streams around, and it's a bit harsh on the production team to dual stream it. But good news, we've been able to put our stream back on track. So this tutorial is actually going to happen on Thursday, not Wednesday. So if you're interested in joining us for the next tutorial, the Legendary series will be back, and we'll be going through yet another of Stu's adventures into tutorial land. So super excited about that. Glad to have that back on. And like I mentioned, next week we will sit down with a bunch of the leads on Tuesday. We'll talk about a lot of the topics that we know are top of mind for you. Everything from Elite Dungeons to mobile, to the Scorpion stuff, crashes, all that sort of stuff. We're going to try and cover it as much as we can. So stay tuned. We are going to get you the answers you're looking for. And as I mentioned, on top of that, we'll have a little something else to reveal next week too that we're looking forward to talking about. So more to come. Until then, thank you very much for joining us, Scapers, and thanks for watching. See you soon.
Yep.